All right, my name is Ann Carmichael, and I want to thank you for joining the conversation about college financial aid. It's important to understand the total cost of attendance. You're going to see a lot of tuition listed on many colleges' website, but it's important to note that there are additional expenses incurred, like for your equipment, books, and your supplies. Personal expenses that you may not have paid for when you were living at home. Room and board if you're living on campus. And then your tuition and fees. And make sure you understand what those fees are. They could show up as athletic fees, library fees, parking fees, just another expense added on to your cost of attendance. But the good news is that financial aid is available from the U.S. Department of Education, the state of Louisiana, your individual college or career school, and then nonprofit or private organizations like LELA. There are three types of federal student aid. You'll have your free money, borrowed money, and earned money. And I like these to be reordered when I'm talking about them. Your free money does not have to be repaid. Your work study should come second, and then your student loans last. You can see here for the 23-24 academic year, the total amounts up to these amounts that you might be eligible to receive from federal student aid. Many of us have heard of the federal Pell Grant. There's also the Federal Supplemental Education Opportunity Grant, the TEACH Grant, the Iran and Afghanistan Service Grant, and these are all monies that do not have to be repaid if you are awarded them. Next is federal work study. This is earned money. There are jobs all over campuses, all over the country, and they are available for students to help them pay for their cost of attendance. And then your last resort will be your student loans. There are direct subsidized and unsubsidized loans for students, and plus loans for parents if they choose to help you pay for your education. One plug for federal work study. These are jobs that have very comparable pay schedules. Students can work on campus or close to campus. These jobs look great on your first professional resume. So if you are going to a four-year college and you've been awarded federal work study, maybe in the counselor and the chancellor's office, that's 4 years of employment to show on your first professional resume. So I would encourage you to say yes on the FAFSA that you are interested in federal work study. It doesn't obligate you to accept the positions, but it does let the financial aid office know to alert you to jobs that are available. Now let's talk just a moment about the difference between subsidized and unsubsidized loans. Subsidized loans are need-based loans. It's part of the federal program, and the interest is waived on this type of loan once it's fully dispersed. Now, it's important to note that in addition, you could be offered unsubsidized direct loans. These loans are for literally everyone. So the interest is not waived on this loan, but you can choose to waive it until you graduate or cease to attend. Both of these have very comparable interest rates. But when you receive your financial aid offer, you'll want to accept your federal subsidized before the unsubsidized portion. You can remember this by telling yourself that the U in unsubsidized means that you always pay the interest on this loan. All of these monies can be used at private and public four-year colleges, community colleges, career and technical schools, for part-time and online college courses. And to access these dollars, you must complete the free application for federal student aid, also known as the FAFSA. Make sure that you're following and keeping up with FAFSA deadlines. Your colleges will most probably have a priority financial aid deadline that you'll want to meet so that you will be considered first when offering these federal dollars. If you choose to use the FAFSA as your TOPS application, they also have a deadline for you to complete the FAFSA. And then there's the federal deadline. Now, there could also be scholarship deadlines. You may have some scholarships that require the FAFSA to be completed by a certain date. So make sure you have your calendar ready and you're jotting down all your important dates and deadlines. Who can complete a FAFSA? Who's eligible for federal student aid? Of course, U.S. citizens and U.S. nationals, but also those with a green card, with an arrival departure record, have battered immigrant status, or a T visa. And if you think you could be in one of these categories, please contact us or Federal Student Aid to inquire. Now, it's important to have all of the documents you're going to need to complete the FAFSA on hand when you begin, so that when you do begin to complete the FAFSA, you can just zoom through it. These documents are going to include the student and parents' most recent Social Security cards, the student and parents' 2022 federal income tax returns, if you filed one, the student and parents' W-2 wage and tax statements from each employer that you worked for in 2022 for both the student and his parents. And then you'll want to keep in mind that you will have to report your balances of checking and savings accounts, many investment accounts, as of the date you submit the FAFSA. So start preparing to gather those. Your first step is going to create your federal student aid ID. Now, the FAFSA this year is not going to open for those entering the 24-25 academic year until December. We still have not been told what date in December, but we are on high alert and we're going to pass that information on to you. One thing you can do and should do now is complete and create your federal student aid ID. And I would like to play this brief video from Federal Student Aid on how to do that.
Perhaps you're a student, parent, or loan borrower who needs to apply for financial aid, electronically sign your FAFSA form, or access other benefits on studentaid.gov. To take full advantage of all our resources and log into studentaid.gov, you'll have to first create an FSA ID. Your FSA ID gives you access to Federal Student Aid's platform and can serve as your legal signature. Your FSA ID is your account username and password. To prepare to create your FSA ID, have your Social Security number, mobile phone, and/or your personal email address handy. To start, navigate to studentaid.gov and select Create Account. Once you're on the Create Account page, select the Get Started button. If you are completing a FAFSA form and are considered a dependent student, keep in mind that you will need to create your own separate FSA ID using your own personal information. A mobile phone number, email address, and social security number can be associated with only one FSA ID. For helpful tips throughout the FSA ID creation process, select the question mark icons that display next to each field. Next, you'll create your username, enter an email address, and create your password. We recommend not using your school-based email address, since you will need to access your federal student aid account after you graduate. Make sure you don't include private information such as your name or date of birth as part of your password. Quick tip, remember, an email address can be associated with only one username and password. Next, enter your permanent address and mobile phone number. Indicate if you want to use your mobile phone for account access. We highly recommend this option, as it allows you to use your mobile for two-step verification and will help you access your account if you forget your username or password in the future. After selecting Continue, you'll be prompted to choose your communications preferences. On the Communications Preferences screen, select if you'd like to receive required communications from us via email or by postal mail. We recommend email. Besides the required communications, we'll occasionally send you informational communications about grants, student loan forgiveness, or income-based repayment plans you may qualify for. You can opt to receive these by email, text message, or both, or choose not to receive informational communications. You'll also have the option to select English or Spanish as your preferred language for the communications we send you. Next, you'll select 4 challenge questions and answers. Memorize or keep these answers in a safe place in case you need them to help access your account in the future. Choose a question using the drop-down and add your answer in the text box. Select Show Answer to see your answer as you type it. Your answers are not case sensitive. You're almost there. On this step, you can review your information and confirm everything looks correct. If you need to make a correction, select the Edit button within that tile of information. After ensuring your information is correct, review and agree to the terms and conditions at the bottom of the screen. Now you'll add two-step verification to safeguard your account. Whenever you sign in, we'll send a secure code to make sure it's really you. You can choose whether you prefer email, text message, or an authenticator app. We'll begin with your phone number. Select the Verify button under SMS verification. You will automatically be sent a 6-digit secure code. At the same time, a pop-up window will open. Enter the code and select the Continue button. You'll see a green verified icon appear that tells you you're successful. Next, verify your email address. Select the Verify button. You will automatically be sent a 6-digit secure code. At the same time, a pop-up window will open. Enter the code and select the Continue button. You'll see the same verified icon, confirming that you verified your email. You'll also see a green box confirming that your two-step verification is ready to go. We also suggest setting up an authenticator app, which provides the most security of the two-step verification methods. Select Set up an authenticator app. A pop-up window will open. Follow the steps you see there. First, download an authenticator app from a mobile app store or use one you've already downloaded. Next, you can either scan the QR code with your authenticator app or copy the key into your authenticator app. Then select Continue. Another pop-up window will appear. Enter the secure code generated by your authenticator app and select the Finish button. You've done it. Two-step verification is enabled. But what if you're in a situation where you can't use the other two-step verification methods? Don't lose heart. You can use a backup code. Your backup code is generated automatically when you enable two-step verification. Store your code in a safe place until you need it. Congratulations, you've successfully created your FSA ID. If you entered an email address, you will receive a confirmation email. Make sure you note your username and password and keep them in a safe place. You can begin using your account immediately, but it will take 1 to 3 days for your information to be verified by the Social Security Administration. Some of your actions in the site will be limited until your information is verified. However, with your newly created FSA ID, you can immediately complete and sign a first-time FAFSA form. You can also use your FSA ID to access your dashboard, review your loan balance, and explore additional dashboard features. You are now able to take control of your federal student aid journey and access all studentaid.gov has to offer.
As I mentioned, you can go ahead and begin creating your FSA IDs. It does take about 3 days for the Social Security Administration to verify your information. So you'll definitely want to do that before you begin the FAFSA. And every student and at least one of his parents, this year it's going to be the parent who provided him with the most financial support. There are situations where both parents will have to create an ID, but having that one parent get started now is a great start. Make sure that you're recording all of your information because you're going to need this every year that you are in college because you'll have to create a FAFSA each year. Now, when you begin the FAFSA, you will see that there are going to be a couple of options. This is what the home page is going to look like. Students now who are attending the 23-24 academic year are still able to submit a FAFSA, but you guys are the class of 2024, so you'll want to create the 24-25 FAFSA. And as I mentioned, that's going to be available in December. Your counselor will be letting you know the exact date, but have that on your calendar. You'll log in with your username and password, and then you'll be asked to identify your role. Are you the student or are you the parent entering the form to complete the parent section of the FAFSA? We're going to assume that you're the student. You will then be given the information that you entered in your FSA ID. So go ahead and double check now and see if any changes need to be made. You can do that on this page. Almost immediately this year, you will be asked to consent to have your income tax information transferred from the IRS and dropped into the FAFSA. Everyone now must consent to have the IRS checked for your income information from 2022. If the student chooses not to, then he will not be eligible for federal student aid. There are 5 sections that the student must complete: personal circumstances, demographics, financials, colleges, and then it's time to sign and submit. These questions are very detailed and should be very easy to answer. But if you do have questions, there are a lot of tips within the form itself. You will be asked to state your classification as a college student. And though many of you have already taken AP courses or clept out of courses for college, that's great, and congratulations. But for this purpose, for FAFSA purposes, you will all want to report that you were first-year freshmen because you have never received federal student aid before.
Hi there.
You will be helping federal student aid to determine whether you are an independent or a dependent student. And many of you say, well, I'll be 18, so certainly I'm independent. But for federal student aid, you will be asked to consider a list of questions to make that determination. These are the questions or statements that you must consider. The student is currently serving on active duty in the U.S. Armed Forces or is a veteran. The student has children or others that he financially supports who live with him. At any time since the student turned 13, was he an orphan, a ward of the court, or in foster care? Or is the student legally emancipated? And the last question, is the student in legal guardianship with someone other than his parents, as determined by a court in the state of Louisiana? So if the student can select yes to just one of these questions, he will be considered an independent student, and he will not be asked to provide parental information. If you do find yourself in one of these situations, make sure that you are gathering that legal documentation, because the financial aid office will need to verify it. Next, the students will be asked to identify the parent who financially supports him the most, and that's in the past 12 months. So they will be asked if their parents are married, if they are married to each other questions to help them determine which parent will serve as a contributor. The student will then provide information about that parent or parents and move on to the student demographic section. Students in this section may choose to answer or opt out. They will also be asked to answer more questions about their parents, about their situation, if any others live in the household with him, and then his finances. And although most students, seniors this year, did not work in 2022, you still will be asked to report if you earned any money, and then you will be asked about your assets as well. You'll move into the college section. This is the section where you are asked which colleges you would like to have your FAFSA data sent to and what your housing plans are, so that the financial aid office can determine your total cost of attendance. You can add up to 20 colleges each time you submit your FAFSA, and you want to make sure you're adding all of the schools that you're considering so that you don't have to go back into the form later and make those changes. Remember, federal student aid is not going to send out your personal information to every college around the country. You must give them permission to do that. Then it's time to take a look at your FAFSA summary. You can see the different sections listed here, and I would advise you to use the drop-down arrow to double check your answers to each question. If you find you need to make a change, the question is in the form of a hyperlink, and you can go back into the FAFSA and make that correction. You can see here that these parents, as listed by the student, are going to receive an email asking them to contribute to the student's FAFSA. I want to go back to this quickly because it's still the case this year that the student has 45 days to complete the FAFSA once he has initiated the process. So if he begins on day one and the parents do not contribute until day 46, when they log in, they may see that that FAFSA has been deleted and the student will have to begin from the beginning. Then it's time for the student to sign the FAFSA, stating that the information he's provided is correct to the best of his knowledge. And once he does sign, his parents will receive an email stating that he has signed and it is their turn to contribute. Once the parent logs into the FAFSA with his username and password or that federal student aid ID that he's already created, he will be asked to consent to have his information transferred from the IRS and dropped directly into the FAFSA. Again, parents must agree to have this done, or their child will not be eligible for federal student aid. And that includes those who did not complete a federal income tax return in 2022. It just needs to be verified. The parent will move into his demographics section, answer questions about his marital status, any other students in his household that are going to college, his household size, his finances, which most of the income information will have been transferred from the IRS, but there are additional asset questions that need to be answered. The parent will answer whether anyone in his household has received any of these federal benefits. If so, you'll want to make a notation for those. And then information about the parent's tax filing status. Here's the family size section. If a parent has entered as a contributor and his tax information has been transferred from his income tax return, he can go ahead and use the number of dependents listed on his tax return. But if that has changed since 2022, you can manually update it. Other children who live in the household should be reported here. And you will continue to answer questions about your income. It's time now to review the parent section of the FAFSA, make sure that everything is correct before you submit the FAFSA itself. The parent will sign stating the information he has provided is correct to the best of his knowledge. And then, because the student section is signed and the parent section is signed, the FAFSA can be submitted. The parent will receive a notification when his section is completed, and an email will go directly to the student telling him that this process has been completed. Now, if you're living with someone other than your parents, let's say you live with your grandparents. If those grandparents have legally adopted you, then they will become your legal parents. But if you're in legal guardianship, perhaps with your grandparents, no adult's information will be reported on the FAFSA because you're going to be considered an independent student. So remember, only legal parents' information should be reported on the FAFSA. Once the FAFSA is submitted, it's going to go to the colleges you listed and gave federal student aid permission to send it to. And at that time, the financial aid office will begin to determine how much aid you're eligible to receive. They're working to determine what your cost of attendance is based on your FAFSA questions. Then they'll identify any grants or scholarship dollars that you might be eligible to receive on their campus so that they can determine your net price. And that is the amount that you will be responsible for paying. Not all financial aid offers are going to look the same, but they all should line item the cost of attendance, any grants or scholarships that they have found that you're eligible for, any student loans to help you pay that net price. So make sure that you are reviewing your financial aid offers and determining the price for each college if that's of importance to you. You'll always want to accept your financial aid in this order. Of course, scholarships and grants are gift aid that doesn't have to be repaid. You've already earned the money with your federal work study position, so you don't have to pay that back. And then your last resort will be student loans, which is why you should all be searching for scholarships. This is prime time. It's your senior year and the best time to find money to pay for your college expenses.
How is it they're presenting it?
You can find them at the college or career school that you're applying to. Private organizations, maybe your parents' employers have money available for students who are in college, nonprofit organizations like Leela, and then community organizations, churches, social groups, and your counselor is probably the best resource for these scholarship applications. Leela is offering a $1,000 FAFSA completion scholarship again this year for Louisiana high school seniors. If you would like to use this QR code to access that application, it'll take you right to the application. Please feel free to do that now. We're also going to be awarding several Choose Louisiana scholarships. And these are for students who are planning to attend college in the state of Louisiana. This QR code will lead you directly to that application. If you find that you need additional funding after you've exhausted all of your federal and state aid, Leela does administer a nonprofit education loan program called Leela Choice. And you can find out more about that on our website, leelachoice.org. As I mentioned, you'll want to remember all of this information, all of your usernames and passwords, because the FAFSA must be completed every year that you're seeking financial aid. So when you receive your award, it's going to be for that one academic year. And beginning next October 1st, you can complete your FAFSA for the sophomore year, and etc. We will be publishing our FAFSA completion guide again this year. It's for the class of 2024, and it's free for all Louisiana high school seniors. If you registered for this session or applied for one of our scholarships, you will be the first to receive an electronic version of the FAFSA guide and workbook. I want to provide you with my contact information. If you have any questions or you have a special situation, none of us really know exactly what the FAFSA is going to look like this year because it won't be released until December, but we'll all be here to support each other. So either contact your counselor or feel free to email me directly. I'm going to look in the chat box now, and if anyone needs to ask a specific question, please do so and drop your question there in the chat box.
29 times. They got it pulled up under a lookup diagram or a rigger, and it's neither.
All right, does anybody have questions or any comments? All right, well, I want to thank you for attending. Oh, I might see a question. Oh, here's a good question. How is this tied to TOPS? Well, TOPS is the scholarship that you've earned. So that is actually a scholarship. Federal student aid is accessed by completing the FAFSA. So those are federal dollars versus state dollars. However, if you're referring to how the TOPS office gets information about your FAFSA, they do have a contract with federal student aid that any Louisiana student who takes the ACT, they receive that information, or who completes the FAFSA, they receive that. And once your high school counselor records and reports your transcript from your senior year, then the TOPS office will gather all that documentation to determine your eligibility. Now, if you decide that you don't want to complete the FAFSA, you can go onto the TOPS website and complete a TOPS application. But the FAFSA can serve as your TOPS application if you choose. And someone else wants to know, if we sign up too early, will our account get deleted? No, once you create your federal student aid ID, that is yours for a lifetime. You will use it on your FAFSA as a student. You will use it again if you have children that have that are seeking federal student aid. So that is your electronic signature and will follow you throughout your life. Now, if you start the FAFSA too early, that will be deleted. You've got 45 days once you start the FAFSA itself to complete and submit. These are good questions. Does anybody else have a question? Okay, if you do, email me directly. Since I'm not getting any more questions, I'm going to go ahead and close out the meeting, and thank you for having me. I appreciate it.